Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
7:06, it's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here to the extravaganza this Wednesday morning, 7th day of August. We've got plenty of coverage on Kamala Harris's amazing pick for running mate, and you'll hear all of it. Also at 7:35, Charlie Gasparino, Fox Business, on the roller coaster that is Wall Street. And 8:35, Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics, talk about the polls and where things stand. I'm Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Good morning, Julie. And let's bring on Susan Crabtree. You just heard your boss is going to be here later in the program, Susan. But nothing to worry about. He's been singing your praises, and understandably so. You've been doing great work on the Secret Service story. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, I guess the latest that we want to delve into here is the idea that then-Director Cheadle, who again was handpicked by Jill Biden to be the new director of the Secret Service, apparently went out of her way to try to destroy evidence after the investigation of that little baggie of cocaine that was found in the White House. What an extraordinary thing to hear that someone in charge of a law enforcement agency would want to destroy evidence moments after the investigation has been concluded. Who does that? Who in law enforcement advocates to destroy evidence?
Oh, I found out that it's quite common, and that only within the Secret Service, if they encounter any kind of what they call contraband, any kind of drugs on their protective detail as they're going about their duties, protecting the first family or the president, the vice president, all of the protectees, that they just flush it down the toilet.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. So the only reason why this came to light is because that's the innermost circle of the president's protection. That's his detail, what they call in the Secret Service the detail. That's what they would do if they discovered it. But in this case, it was a uniform division individual, and they are the foot soldiers, really protecting the White House every day, the White House complex, or any other venue. Many other venues, counter snipers are also in the uniform division, but it's a big part of the Secret Service. That individual encountered this baggie in the White House, and he decided up the chain of command, decided to call the local Metropolitan Fire and EMS, and they evacuated the building, including the press area where I work regularly, and that's the only reason why we know this exists, okay, in the first place, because they had a leak, because the press were evacuated along with everybody else in the White House because they thought it was anthrax or ricin.
Huh.
Yes, that's the only way we know about it. So then fast forward, they go and they test it. The local police test it. They tested DHS. They find out, yes, indeed, it is cocaine. It is not anything hazardous. And that's where the interesting part begins. Because the FBI, I am told, got a partial DNA hit off of the baggie of cocaine. So a partial DNA hit, I had to learn what that meant. That means in law enforcement world that there might be a blood relative attached to that DNA of somebody who was in the White House complex that weekend.
And that weekend was the weekend where the family gathered before leaving the White House, but they left from the White House. Isn't that correct?
That's right. And it was July 4th weekend. It was a very sleepy Sunday night. And that's when this occurred. The family was at Camp David. It already left for Camp David. So, including Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden had been there that day. There was a swirling speculation that maybe it was Hunter Biden's. He's supposed to be sober, but it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that he had a backlash that day. He setback that day or that weekend. We don't know whose it is.
Yeah.
Because the Secret Service purposely did not investigate it. They told the public that there's 500 people in the White House complex. We only had a little bit of DNA. We didn't have enough DNA material to really narrow it down. So we would have had to interview every one of those people in the White House complex, and we didn't want to violate their civil liberties. That's what the public statement said after their 11-day investigation. But that's not what occurred according to my sources, and I've been working on this story since May, before the assassination attempt. So, my sources are adamant that this is what happened, that the FBI found a partial hit based on DNA and based on what the waived records for the White House show are the people that were there that weekend. And
that's amazing.
Then and after that, they decided, oh, well, they're not going to interview the people that were there that weekend. They were not going to try to narrow it down on purpose. And that's when Director Cheadle said, case closed, now destroy the evidence.
Wow.
And the leaders of the Forensic Services Division, which hold the evidence in a vault, Cheadle or someone on her behalf called Matt White, who is in charge. He's the supervisor of the vault where the cocaine was contained. They store it there in a vault. And she or someone on her behalf called him and said, I want you to destroy evidence. And he went up to his bosses and said, what are we going to do? She wants to destroy evidence. And they said, there's no way, that doesn't follow our protocol. We have to keep evidence for up to 7 years. That's our protocol. I heard it's 7 years. They pushed back. They refused to destroy the evidence. And there's some allegations of retaliation that occurred as well.
That's amazing.
On those individuals.
And this is all under Secret Service Director Cheadle, who I want to remind everybody was the hand-selected decision of Dr. Jill Biden. The then Second Lady had known Ms. Cheadle when she was the Vice President's wife. Now, I got to ask you, Susan, because we mentioned this yesterday. The Secret Service is known for two very noble things. The first, obviously, is to put themselves in the way of a bullet to sacrifice their own lives for the president or whoever they're protecting. The second is that they are incredibly discreet. They are sworn to secrecy. But, the trade-off for getting that kind of protection is you've got to let Secret Service into sometimes very private moments in your life. And oftentimes these protectees, the first families, they just sort of get used to knowing that these Secret Service agents are going to see and learn a lot of things behind closed doors that politicians would never want the whole world to learn. But they know that those agents, it's almost like priests in a confessional. They are not going to divulge what they learn. Is that what's at play here? Did Jill Biden want this trusted person in this position so that if anything like this happens, then she would take care of business and make sure that it's kept quiet?
Well, I don't get inside Jill Biden's head about that. I haven't had conversations myself with the agents on that detail, but including Director Cheadle. She's not calling me back. So, and to put it mildly, in fact, they are denying that this is true, but I don't trust them anymore. I'm sorry to say.
Well, I saw their denial, and it was not very specific. They didn't say specifically what wasn't true. It was it was very squirrely. And by the way, it was from the same comms guy who denied that the Trump campaign had been refused additional protection, and then a week later they said, "Oh yeah, that turns out to be true." Susan, when you say there's a partial DNA hit, but they couldn't, does that mean okay, we know it's one of the Bidens, we're just not sure which?
We don't know. Unfortunately, we didn't ever get there, right? I mean, the FBI, that was done by the FBI. So the FBI was in on this.
Yeah.
So someone at the FBI, whoever did that, whoever knows about that partial DNA hit, knows that they could have narrowed down the investigation and could have interviewed the parties that were at least there at the White House complex that sleepy evening or that weekend.
Right.
So,
right. It should have been easy to lock it down. It's not like it was a bustling place over a holiday weekend. Susan Crabtree, can you stay with us? Because there's more to do. We haven't even discussed the revelations about what happened on the 13th in Butler. Can you stay with us for one more segment?
Sure thing.
Great, because Tom Bevan's coming up, and I would hate to give a bad report to your boss a little later in the program. Susan Crabtree, Real Clear Politics, stays with us. And in exchange, we'll plug her new book coming out. But first, it's 7:15, WMAL.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live.
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
News is brought to you by New Look Home Design.
We continue with Susan Crabtree, Real Clear Politics. And Susan, by the way, has a book coming soon. It's called Fool's Gold, The Radicals, Con Artists, and Traitors Who Killed the California Dream and Now Threaten Us All. And that is incredibly relevant right now, given the newly formed presidential tickets. I'm looking forward to that book. As a former Californian myself, I look forward to reading that book. Susan, we've now learned through some whistleblowers communicating with a couple of senators, including Josh Hawley of Missouri, that many of the reckless and dangerous and almost deadly decisions made on July 13th all come down to one lead Secret Service agent, someone who apparently, according to these whistleblowers, weren't even checking IDs of people within secure areas. And this person, forget about not even being fired or suspended, this person is still handling Secret Service duties at various events. Do you know more about this as well? And are we ever going to find out their identity? And will there ever actually be any changes made at the Secret Service?
I do know the person's identity, the woman's identity, and I am not disclosing it because I am actually worried about her mental health right now, and I don't want to dox her. But at the same time, I am.
Wait, hold on. You're worried about her mental health, and yet she is still on the job conducting these security protocols?
I've heard that she's under obvious strains, and I don't understand how she's not on admin leave. I really don't.
Wow.
Because she was in charge. I reported within the first 48 hours of the assassination attempt that it was a woman, and that the lead site agent was. There were concerns that she didn't have experience, not overall in the Secret Service. I'm trying to be careful here, not to narrow it down too much, but that she didn't have a lot of experience planning these types of rallies, these huge 50,000 plus rallies in the open air venue, and that most of her experience was in what's called protective intelligence. So it is advanced work, but it's not on the ground that day. It's not running as a lead site person, which means that she decided where the perimeter was. She decided where the American Glass building was not included in that perimeter. She decided that local police would be on that. She did recommend, but it seemed like it came last minute, and I don't know why. This was the first time that counter snipers were at any Trump rally, and that is an important point there, important factual point there, because the presidents get at outdoor events get counter snipers, okay, but former presidents usually don't. Does that policy make sense when it comes to Donald Trump?
Right.
Makes no sense.
Not at all.
Did politics play a part in this decision making? We're just using old protocols. Well, Donald Trump breaks the mold, and that you don't use old protocols when there's 50,000 people at his rallies, and there is a threat that they have not acknowledged, but I believe the threat has extended for 4 years from the Iranians.
Yeah, Susan, we've heard the word standard operating procedures before. With regard to Trump, and how perhaps standard operating procedures don't exactly work when it comes to Trump. But this, I want to just go back to the Secret Service agent you mentioned, and I know you're trying to be very careful here, but it reminds me of a case in April of this year where there was a Secret Service agent that was assigned to Kamala Harris that was hospitalized after exhibiting what they called distressing behavior. She actually went a little nuts at an event and attacked another Secret Service agent. What is going on over there? It sounds like you don't just have a couple Secret Service. I mean, this seems to be a problem with the mental health and it seems to be some female Secret Service agents. Is there a problem or a pattern that you've noticed over there?
Unfortunately, yes. I've also been told, and I'm looking into it, that there's suicides that are happening at the Secret Service that they try to cover up.
Oh, wow.
Yes. The problem what we're facing here is there's a lowering of standards for applicants, and there are also pushing people who don't pass certain tests, very rigorous training, and you have to be completely mentally stable. And from what I understand, Kimberly Cheadle, her name comes up again, was the director of the Rowley Training Center, is where they, when Secret Service, they come in different phases of their time, but certainly at the beginning of their service with the agency, they train there. That's how they learn to become a Secret Service agent. And from what I am told by multiple sources, Kimberly Cheadle passed her despite wasn't passing with flying colors at the training center. This individual, I did name this individual, Michelle Herzig, and she is on admin leave, medical leave. So she didn't pass with flying colors, so she passed her anyway. And what we're seeing time and time again, and what a lot of sources tell me about the suicide issues, is they're not passing their polygraphs. They're lowering their standards for everything across the board, and they're still getting in.
Wow. Susan Crabtree, investigative reporter here in Washington, D.C., covering the Secret Service and other political stories as well for Real Clear Politics, and her book is coming out soon. It's called Fool's Gold. It talks about the very dangerous progressive vision that has destroyed California. And it's about to get a national showing through one of its top architects, Kamala Harris. Susan Crabtree, absolutely indispensable conversation. Thank you for joining us.
Now,
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:36 on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here on a very busy Wednesday morning, the 7th day of August. Coming up at 8:35, Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics, and we'll talk about what appears to be some tightening polls for Kamala Harris. Or are they really tightening? We'll get the lowdown from the man, Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Good morning, Julie. Well, if this election is all about the economy, and I think in many respects it will be, well, what's been going on Wall Street for the last couple of days will certainly be a part of the conversation. Charlie Gasparino from Fox Business Network, senior correspondent and a New York Post columnist, joins us now. By the way, his new book is called Go Woke, Go Broke. I want to talk about that in a minute, Charlie. But first, good morning. Thanks for joining us here in D.C.
Anytime. How are you?
All right, but it's only because I've been disciplined enough to not actually check the balance on my 401k or my IRAs, because what a disaster. I mean, this is coming off of that jobs report on Friday, and then Monday. There's been a lot of analysis about what the market was really reacting to. What do you think this was?
Well, there's never one reason why markets implode like they did over the last, I guess it was Friday and Monday, the big drops, right?
Yeah.
And they came back a little bit yesterday. Here's what I would say. Just try not to, think big thoughts on every market drop. I mean, not every market drop is a Kamala crash, right? Not every market drop.
No, only the ones that happen between now and election day, Charlie. That's how we're playing.
Right.
Now.
But I want to clarify that in a second. But the markets are signaling trouble ahead, and there's just no doubt about that. I mean, even before the jobs number came out on Friday, I was preparing a column in the New York Post. I actually wrote it. It appeared on Sunday. That said, there's a lot of troubling signs with this economy. It looks like stuff is slowing down. They keep revising downward the job gains.
Yeah.
They did it quarter after quarter. There was consumer sentiment was softening, and there was a bunch of earnings were coming. Some earnings were coming back light. And then all of a sudden you had that jobless, the unemployment report, which unemployment ticked up.
Yeah.
Hiring grew slower than expected. And I think what you're seeing now is people, yes, acknowledging the economy is slowing. And then on top of that, while it's not a Kamala crash, I will tell you, traders are worried about the fact that Kamala Harris could be president. The minute her poll numbers started to show even Steven with Trump is when that Trump trade was off and the markets tanked. I mean, there was just no doubt about a lack of, let's say, not even enthusiasm. I mean, I don't know. I mean, just real people are scared.
Dread. Because she's promising more of the same, right? And if anything, I think part of that reaction was also because the market was probably, rallying a bit because it looked like Trump was going to win, and people were starting to feel pretty good about the future. So, she seems incompetent. I mean, there's a lot of stuff floating around social media, and investors look at this, and showing her explaining inflation in the most bizarre, infantile way. So, I'm telling you that there's real fear about her. I think, if you're game planning this, if you want to, do a market bet based on the election, her pick of Tim Walz instead of Shapiro is positive for stocks because it gives Trump. I mean, Shapiro would have been a ticket for Trump fans. In other words, let me just be clear, because he'd be a disaster if they won. But what you're saying is the market now is going to say, oh, this means Trump has a better shot of winning because Tim Walz is just such a disaster.
Yeah, and Shapiro, a moderate who brings a big state. I mean,
absolutely. As a partisan Republican, I'm thrilled that she didn't pick Shapiro. I was very nervous about that. We're speaking with Charlie Gasparino. He's from Fox Business Network. And I do want to ask you about your book now, Go Woke, Go Broke, because so many people, there was always the stereotype that corporate America, they were the, right-wing Reagan capitalists, who and so, like, where did these companies suddenly start getting all of these? I mean, frankly, you've got more woke left-wing DEI agenda coming from Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, and General Electric than you get from the state of California government. Well, how did that happen so quickly?
Throw in their Budweiser, throw in their Disney, throw in their BlackRock, the biggest money management firm. Listen, that's what the book's about. I mean, it's a cultural phenomenon that businesses became, and it's sort of like a subsidiary of the Democratic Party and the progressive movement. And, listen, this is not a think piece. Well, there is a think piece part of the book where I tried to get my arms around it. But what I did was I chronicled the absurdity. By the way, corporations doing woke stuff is pretty funny. I think if you read the book, you'll get a kick out of it. When there's a debate at Goldman Sachs among bankers whether they should eat Chick-fil-A because, the Cathy family comes from the South and they believe in traditional marriage. I mean, and my rendition of that, how I reported that out, it's actually funny. It's funny to watch, Budweiser and the people at AB InBev contort themselves to bring in Dylan Mulvaney, a trans influencer, sipping a beer in a bubble bath. I mean, that's funny. It's scary. It's funny. The machinations at Disney, what went on there. I get into the nitty gritty, how they blew themselves up. Bob Chapek, the former CEO, blowing himself up, and how Bob Iger set the stage for, and he's back, as you know, Bob Iger, he's back as CEO, but just how that all happened, where, you have a company so obsessed with race, DEI, that they actually have a checklist in there. I found the checklist on their annual report where they show their top executives, like the CEO, Bob Chapek, and whether they pass certain of these metrics. He failed on the race metric because guess what? He's a white man.
Oh, dear.
So, I go through this. I trace the evolution and how it began, how it went on steroids after the George Floyd unfortunate killing, and where we are now, which is a backlash.
Sure.
And people trying to put the genie back in the bottle. Not that easy, by the way, but it is a sort of sweep about how we got to where we are today, where it came from. How did we go from Reaganism in the 80s to, Dylan Mulvaney in now. But what's interesting about this though is that there is a backlash, and the companies now are doing stupid stuff to sort of unwind the back to fight against the backlash. I mean, Budweiser's are now the number 3 beer, right? So what does Budweiser do after Dylan Mulvaney? They cut a deal with UFC. Now they're a sponsor of a very, very macho sport, right? UFC, Ultimate Fighting, right? And then they also are planning to do some sort of sponsorship with Dana White's other thing called Power Slap. Have you ever seen this?
Oh, it's insane.
Yeah, it's gross.
It's these two big guys literally slapping themselves and getting, the guy that gets knocked out loses, obviously. So they've gone from Dylan Mulvaney to Power Slap.
Trying too hard.
Talk about a transition there. I mean,
the transition in a very different way, Charlie Gasparino. But may I say, if they have a sport where people get to slap Dylan Mulvaney, now you're onto something.
Okay.
But we're going to have to leave that where it is.
I am not endorsing that.
He's not
I
going
understand.
there.
Yes. Oh, listen. If I had $1 for every guest who has to distance themselves from my mania, I wouldn't have to do radio anymore. Charlie Gasparino, a class act. The book is called Go Woke, Go Broke. Thanks for joining us. Don't be straight. We always love your reports, by the way. I think you do a great job on Fox Business. Your columns are good. We'd love for you to be a regular here, unless I get you into more trouble.
Yes, no, I mean, I know how to dodge minefields,
That's me. Thanks, Charlie. It's 7:44. It's August. Summer may be drawing to a close, but you know what, Julie Gunlock? There's still never been a better time to take charge of your health and lose that weight. Julie and I want to tell you about Copair weight loss.
Yeah, look, the Copair has really worked for me. The combination of the low dose of meds that I'm on, along with the coaching, my coach Serena has made my weight loss journey really easy. And I've actually talked to Dr. Barker. She is the doctor in charge of sort of the medical side of Copair. Yeah. And she shared with me that clients who work with her are losing 43% more weight than with meds only clients due to the coaching from Copair. So look, the weight loss retention for the Copair RX program is over 4 times greater than just being on the meds alone.
Incredible results, and that's what Copair is all about. Results, results, results. Our health is precious. If you know you can improve your health by weight loss easily and successfully, you need to do it now. Stop gambling with your health. I know it's soon to be football season, so you can gamble there. Don't gamble with your health. Gamble on your favorite team instead. And we know that y'all are passionate, right? We know that you can apply that same passion to taking charge of your health. So do it. Call Copair at 855-888-0180. Get started. 855-888-0180 or go to COPAREhealth.com. 745 WMAL, traffic and weather every 10 minutes first on the fives with Jamie Whitten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
WMAL, making sense of education, because what's happening in your kid's school matters. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
A fascinating exchange during the White House press briefing yesterday. Karine Jean-Pierre is the press secretary, of course, for Joe Biden. Hey, Julie.
Yes.
Joe Biden's president. Isn't that wild?
I know.
Who knew? And a reporter asked a pretty, I think, salient question. The world is on the brink of war. Why haven't we heard from the president? We had that video of him going to get flowers at Rehoboth, and he was asked about whether Iran will stand down.
I don't know.
What? Beats me.
Hopefully.
Maybe you should ask the president. So here's Karine Jean-Pierre's answer, if you don't mind.
Israel could be under attack any moment from Iran. U.S. troops in Iraq were injured yesterday. Why have we not heard directly from President Biden this week? We know he met with his team yesterday. Yep. We know today's VP Harris's big day, but he's still the president. Where is he?
Well, here's the thing. You have seen the president. He has been very clear about making sure that we continue to try to de-escalate tensions. We just put out two readouts today, a readout yesterday. And our focus right now is to make sure that we continue to try to de-escalate tensions here. And that's what the president has been doing.
You have seen the president.
Yeah. What is she talking about?
I haven't seen the president. Have you seen the president?
I have not seen the president.
He's still the president. Where is he? Well,
here's the thing. You have seen the president. He has.
Yeah. His schedule yesterday, by the way.
Oh, dear.
This was his schedule. At the very moment that she's saying, you've seen the president, his schedule was 11 a.m., the in-town pool, that's AP, Bloomberg, the photographers, they were supposed to report at 11 o'clock to be part of the pool. At 2:15, he received his daily brief. 2:15.
Wow.
He got his day. You would think your daily brief happens first thing in the morning,
Yep.
right? When you start your workday. No, at 2:15, he got his brief, and at 1:30 there was the press briefing from Karine Jean-Pierre, and that was the president's schedule yesterday. At 2:15, he got his
that
briefing.
job.
It was a great job. His schedule for today, Wednesday, at 10 a.m., he's going to get his daily brief. That's impressive. And that's it.
That's it.
That's his schedule. At 2 o'clock, there will be a press briefing from Karine Jean-Pierre to discuss what the president did all day after he got his presidential daily brief.
I would be very good at this.
We have no leadership right now. There is no president
Nope.
of the United States. And literally the Middle East is
on
the
fire.
brink of all-out war.
Yep.
We got what we voted for, I guess. Well, I mean, I didn't get what
We
I
didn't
voted
vote for him.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's 7:50.